Top 5 landing spots for Lamar Jackson. It was announced yesterday that he's requested a trade, maybe even a couple weeks ago, according to him. This is, there's always one really dramatic contract negotiation, and this one has been setting up that way for a couple years now. David Hellman on yesterday suggested the 49ers is a great spot. They'd have to trade, future picks because their first pick is until 99. This year, so I wouldn't think that the Ravens would go in for that, especially since you're going to have to probably maybe draft his replacement unless you feel good with Tyler Huntley for a year and then rolling your dice to try to get in the quarterback derby next year. But here are 5 good landing spots for him. The 5th one is not as feasible, but I do think that the offense they run, given it's the same 49ers offense, would be amazing in the Dolphins. They run the ball a lot, supplied zone. Their wide receivers are excellent. Really, kind of what he would need, and he would help put them over the top, maybe in a way that Tua can't. They're not going to do that. They're committed to Tua, but I do think Lamar Jackson in Miami makes a ton of sense, and I believe he is actually from that area too.
Yeah, he is. Mike McDaniel said when asked if they were out of the Lamar sweepstakes, absolutely. So, yeah, he's already put the kibosh on that. Because of that answer. But, yeah, he said absolutely. That's why you pick up a 5th-year option. That's how you do it. That's why you pick the option up as soon as you know you're going to. And he got into more of that. But he said that's a very good player. That's all I know about him. So, yeah, that would be off the table. But, I mean, outside of that, it absolutely makes sense. And, yeah, being from the general area and having a lot of fans down there and, knowing that part of the country, yeah, I mean, you just put 2 and 2 together, that makes a lot of sense. And that'd be fun to watch, man. Him and Tyreek and company, that'd be a lot of fun. But.
Yeah. Talk about football and skates, right?
Yeah, it would be great. Number 4, the Patriots. Robert Kraft himself started this rumor. I mean, by saying Meek Mill texted him about it. I mean, they're not want to usually trade their first-round draft picks and do all that. That's not what they do. But if they're not sold on Mac Jones, that's something you can throw in there. He can be on his way to Baltimore, and they can work that out for the next couple years so that they don't have to necessarily, because, again, that's the 14th pick this year the Patriots have, so it wouldn't necessarily be kind of a disaster moving up or whatever. But, look, they've got Ramondre Stevenson, really good running game there. Their offensive line is improving. They're getting better. They have better weapons than the Ravens do right now on the outside for them, although, I know that they can still do better. But they brought in Juju Smith-Schuster. They still have the tight end Hunter Henry. They brought in Mike Gesicki. So I do think that that's an offense that fits him well, and Bill O'Brien would probably do well with him. But we'll see. I just don't think this is all that likely, and I think that Robert Kraft kind of pulled a Jerry on that one yesterday.
Attention grab?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
Get people.
He said it'd be up to Belichick, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how Belichick feels about that, but clearly, Mac Jones isn't impervious to change, and it's not like he's locked down the entire future there in New England. So, yeah, I mean, I could see why they would be interested. I can see why everybody in the league would be interested in Lamar Jackson. But, yeah, I mean, that's for Belichick to, I guess, make that move if that's so desired. But him in New England would certainly spice things up and probably make that place feel the most exciting it's been in a couple of years now. I mean, since Brady left, really, it's been kind of just – ho-hum, I mean, quite frankly. So that'd be great for Tyquan Thornton as well. We get Lamar Jackson in there.
Also, I would just love to hear, after a big win, the fan interviews, Lamar is the best quarterback in the league.
Or not. Maybe this is why we shouldn't have this occur.
I just want to hear that. Number 3, the Commanders. I think this would be absolutely 1,000,000% on the table if the team had already been sold. I think it would be – I mean, the Ravens may not want to do it, but the new owner might put them in a position where a team that loves draft capital as much as the Ravens do, and they don't have a lot this year. 22, I think their second pick is not till 87. So a team that could pick up more draft capital, I think that would make a big splash. It would send a message to the fans that, hey, I care more than the previous A-wipe that was owning here. And
Well, he used to go for the splash. They just always went for the wrong splash.
Yeah.
Ron Rivera's pretty much shot this down, hasn't he?
Yeah, and so is Martin Mayhew. They're committed to Jacoby Brissett and Sam Howell, their quarterback room this year, which is what you say before the draft. And look, if Anthony Richardson or Will Levis fell to 16, which is not going to happen, but if they were sitting there at 16 or if they were sitting there at 13 and the Commanders could go up and get them, believe me, they're gonna.
They're going to think about it.
Yeah, or they're going to think about it. Nobody on their roster is preventing them from making a deal that they want. But I do think this would be great. Again, they're not sending him across the border there and sending half their fans over with them, at least in the short term. Number 2, the Falcons. This one actually feels to me like the most probable of this. And again, they said, we're going to stick with Desmond Ridder. And, Desmond Ridder showed some good things at the end of last year, but that's a team with Drake London, with Kyle Pitts. Probably need a little more in the running game, although Tyler Algiers did really well last year. But I think that's somewhere that fits him really well in that stadium inside where he can run on the turf. Man, that would be fun to watch, I think.
Yeah, apparently Arthur Blank did an interview like a little while ago, said that his situation is very different from Deshaun Watson because the Falcons pursued Deshaun Watson, but they're not really going after Lamar Jackson. He said, different player, different time. You have a winner in Jackson, an MVP in the league. There's no question he's one of the top QBs in the league, but the situation's very different. I'd say there's some concern over how long he can play his style of game. Hopefully a long time, but he's missed 5-6 games each of the last 2 years. Each game counts a lot in our business. So that was from Arthur Blank.
Negotiating comments.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, you read into it whatever you want to, quite frankly, from anybody. And I know they named Ridder the starter today. I mean, they named that today. So, I mean, that's great news for – it's like the new Big 12 team there with Algier from BYU and Desmond Ridder from Cincinnati. But, yeah, he looked sweet in a Falcons uniform. I know that much. He looked really cool in that all black. But, that's what Arthur Blank had to say. But it is draft season, so believe what you want, as much as you want. Yeah,
and number 1, the team that Jim Irsay even came out and said that he doesn't do fully guaranteed contracts is a blah, 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 blah. But the Colts, I almost think, need to do this. Because they have been so bad at or so unlucky at drafting quarterbacks. That just
doesn't fit. That uniform doesn't fit. He can't play there. The shoulder pads are too big.
But he also, think about who the coach is there. It's Shane Steichen, is that how you say it?
From Philly.
From Philly, who ran an offense that and knows how to run the offense that would be best for him. They've got a great running back in Jonathan Taylor. They've got Michael Pittman Jr. there. Obviously would add some more weapons to go around him. But I mean, it makes a lot of sense, and it's something that is a lot easier for them than what happened. Look, Peyton Manning done okay. They draft Andrew Luck that or at least done there. They couldn't run the risk of him not being there. Andrew Luck looks like it's going to work out great, and he's injury prone. And then in that time, they've had different starting quarterbacks every year.
That's why you should grasp and cherish when you have Peyton Manning and whoever else you might have.
But, yeah, I think the Colts makes a ton of sense, although, the Falcons uniform looks probably better on anybody than the Colts uniform, but I do think that it makes a ton of sense.
That's a traditional uniform. That's like one of the old
Johnny U. Right?
It's fine, but black and red's just a better color pattern, and the black and gray and the way the Falcons do it, I like that a lot. But, yeah, I mean, the Colts make a lot of sense for all the reasons that you mentioned. I mean, it does feel like they've been kind of scrambling the last couple of years to try and find the right fit and haven't quite landed on that after having the sturdiness of obviously Peyton and then Andrew Luck. So, yeah, I think there's 11 teams that have been mentioned. It definitely feels like there's probably even more interest than we realize because you have guys going on the record that, quite frankly, like an Arthur Blank or Washington or whoever, that you're like, yeah, I don't quite believe that. So, I mean, very fun to see kind of how this process plays out and where he eventually makes his splash.
Hey, Paxton, I did not put the Titans on this list. They would have been 6th. They would have been 6th. And the reason is, if I'm Lamar Jackson, the Titans are very clearly about to go into a rebuild. And the rest of these rosters, even the Commanders, Smokey, and even the Colts are built better than the Tennessee Titans are long-term. They're in kind of this, Tannehill and Derrick Henry are expiring contracts. Taylor Lewan, they let him go. They've got a new GM, Rand Carthon. They're in a rebuild, and I don't think that if they're a team that he would say yes to on that because he's.
I would want to play for Vrabel.
I would want to play for Vrabel as well, but the window on the Titans is probably a couple years, just based on everything it looks like they're doing this offseason.
Best uniform in that entire group is the one on the right, the Commanders. The color scheme depends. And then again, you're right, Craig, that Falcons red and black looks pretty sharp too. Pretty clean. All right, Paul, thank you very much. Thanks to Jack McKenzie.